office with three lovely ladies. We're doing our kind of series of micro lectures here to get us up to speed on editing for the web. This is your overview of week one kind of activities and content. So this is just to kind of start the conversation about what we're doing here in week one. Start us off with a question, and that one is, where do websites come from? LaJoy, you're on fire today, so I'm going to just I'm going to throw this out there to you.
The internet.
The internet? Yeah, they do come from the internet. It's where they live.
They get started from people who have ideas and they want to put it out there for the world to see.
Brooke, that's like the first time someone's ever actually gotten close to what I'm hitting at, right? So she said it comes from people who have ideas about information that they want to get out there to have people to see. And so what I'm hinting at with this, you guys, I always like to make a few jokes like, where do websites come from? The stork doesn't bring them, or it's not Amazon Prime that's delivering them. Like, websites come from a need, right? They get born out of this need because someone needs to do something, like they have an idea, or they have a business, or they have a product, or they want to start a community, right? So in this class, people think that we're going to examine this need through this lens of coding, right? We are not, right? Like, I throw this up here because this is probably like the only code that you'll see for the month, right? Calm your fears about this. We are looking at this from a more strategic but not technical perspective, right? So in this class, we're going to be looking at that need through the lens of like the user, and then the business or the organization, or the person who needs this website built, right? So through this lens, let's talk a little bit about like what are potential user needs. Okay, users, when they come to a website, broadly do like trying to get one of three things taken care of here, and that would be they want to satisfy a goal of some kind, they want to get their questions answered of some kind, or complete tasks of some kind. That's why people come to websites, generally broadly into three categories. What do business need websites for? Okay, maybe establish themselves in the online world, promoting a brand, getting their name out there, selling a product, raising awareness or educating somebody about something, building and fostering community, getting people together and interacting in a virtual space, or just capturing leads for another business objective. So in this discussion in the class, we're looking for that sweet spot when we talk about strategy of how we approach this, right? So websites are built from a need. Okay, the need of, there's a user's need and there's a business need, and then there's this area where those things overlap, and that's like the perfect place to make design decisions from, because you're thinking, okay, this matches what the user needs to do here, and this matches what the business needs to do here, right? And so as we think about these things moving forward, I want you to think about it from both perspectives, right? Because you're going to get hired by businesses, and they're going to say, this is all of our content. And you can offer an even more valuable service to them if you just don't, take that content and verbatim just like throw it up on the website and make it out there like for people to see. You will be more effective in what you do if you're thinking about, okay, what does the user need in this situation? And you find out and design your site or design your content in such a way that speaks to that. Web design is multidisciplinary, and this is why I can't teach it in 4 short weeks of this class and certainly go in depth in all of these areas, but you're going to see each of these things show up throughout the projects that you do. You're going to get experience doing these things whether you have an awareness of it or not. Graphic design, when you're making a web page, principles of design apply. As Jacob is teaching you about that, be thinking about how that applies to building a website. Information architecture, That's like, how do I place information on a page that facilitates the flow that the user has moving through that information. User experience. Is what I'm creating functional? Is it seamless, or does it throw roadblocks or disconnects out there for my audience? Marketing. Is this being used to like direct traffic, or to elicit action from someone in a way? Usability. Can somebody actually use what it is that I've created? It's not just a mock-up, right? Like, it has to function as well. And then project management. A lot of people think web design is just people like sitting behind coding, but there's like so many nuances and elements to it. Like, it very much follows a project management lifestyle or life cycle when you are working with a client, right? And that project management life cycle also looks very much like a traditional 3-stage production process. You have your pre-production, production, and post-production. You're going to see in the web development process a very similar structure, right? Because it makes sense, and we'll talk about that why in just a minute. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do, which is really what you're asked to do in every class, and that is that you are looking at this discipline, web, whatever, editing content for the web, making websites, as an MCBS, media strategist, right? I'm not asking you just to make something pretty. I'm asking you to think about it. Make sure that it works well, that it functions as intended, that it gives the audience that you're developing this stuff for or designing for, you give them what they need, right? If you're making a video, you're asking yourself these same questions. What does my audience want to see? If you are developing a social media strategy, you're asking these questions. What do these audiences of people or these community of people want to engage and interact with? The same thing applies here. A huge part of this MCBS program is the thought and the strategy that you guys put behind your design decisions. This isn't just about pretty pictures, right? Because if it was, we'd spend a lot more time making sure that you guys were practicing fine art techniques and design principles and all of these things. Design techniques are so important. It has to look great, but it also has to function well and be thoughtful. And that is where your power as media strategists will come into play, not just in this web world, but really in anything else that you're doing, right? So again, where do websites come from? Need, right? But they also come from emails that look like this and show up in my inbox about 5 times a week on various different projects. I share this with you because I want you to see kind of like how these things start. And they start out, just with a basic communication that you have to find out more information about to decide, is this something that I can help with? Is this something I want to help with? And no 2 web projects are going to be alike. Another thing that you'll find me doing this month is helping you figure out how to approach this type of work if you ever want to do it in a freelance capacity. And a lot of the activities that you're going to read in FSO, I put something like freelance consideration, just something to be thinking about if you want to get paid to do this kind of work. I will tell you that when you complete this class, you will have a skill set that you could make money off of, just like that. Not when you graduate, but like now, if you want to. Right? And that's kind of motivational, right? That like you could make a good little bit of money just on the side, whether you love it or not. A little extra pocket change wouldn't hurt anybody. But so I get emails like this pretty often, and they go a little something like this. Hi there. I have a possible job for you in the web development realm if you still do that. Some of my friends had this awesome business, but there were some disputes that fractured the company, and my friends are trying to recover. They're working with someone to develop a new site, but that person hasn't been responsive, and they've gotten this far. It's a WordPress site, and my friends will get the admin password and all that good stuff when they pay the current developer for what he's done. They're looking for a good stopping point with him, and I think they've reached that point. I went over the site with my friends yesterday, and there's some things that I suggest and changes that I think they should make. So here's the deal. Do you want to take over the project? They only need you to finish the structure of the site, and they can populate it. I can go over the changes with you if they want, and then maybe you can give me a price. What do you think? This is from a friend of mine, Jason, not the Jason you guys know.
I'm mad that they said they aren't not paying him. That bothered me.
They aren't not. So they're saying they're going to pay the developer.
If they are not paying.
Yes.
Like, that would have been worded, there's a way that could have been worded so much better.
Like, it's not that they're not paying.
Yes.
Or something like that.
I know. I had to read it a couple times myself. But the whole point is they're saying, look, they want to do right by this current developer, but it's just not a good relationship. I mean, like, where do you even start with this?
And then it says, like, you can finish the structure, they're going to populate it, and then you have to think about how you're going to price that.
Because you just have to make it pretty, basically.
I mean,
like, you're giving it bones, but you're not putting the meat on it.
That's right. They're not putting the meat on it. But here's the thing, and you guys are asking some really great questions, and the whole point of me sharing this to you or with you is because questions still need to be asked. I cannot turn around and say, let's do it, because there are more questions that need to happen here. Even before I can begin to even think about pricing this project out. Like, go ahead, Brooke.
I feel like I would need to know, like, what happened internally for it to hurt the company, because, like, if there's a situation where someone was, like, going to their customers about what was going on with the business to kind of get the customers to stop going there, like, that's kind of like damage control that you gotta fix through the website and branding stuff that you gotta find a new target audience.
Totally strategy. Yeah.
New people, so that's an issue because we just had to deal with that.
Yeah.
Some stuff.
That's strategy.
Personally. So it's kind of like, that's more than just, oh, here's this site, can you finish?
That's right. That's so, like, I don't have enough context here to know if I can be effective in handling this situation, right? Like, I need more information. But that is an absolute great point, because I need more information so that I can come up with a strategy that I think will, get us to a successful place to meet their goals for whatever this is. I need to help them meet the business needs on this project, and I don't know that I have enough information to know that I can be effective in that. Right?
It's really weird that they don't know the admin name and password to their own website.
Well, I mean, anytime you're working with a developer until, like, either they've gotten paid or they want to hand everything over, if it's not a trusted relationship, people can burn you. What's to stop this company from, going in and logging in and changing all the settings and lock the developer out and turn off the phones and shut off the lights and not pay them? Yeah, it'd be a shady thing. So there's a lot of different considerations that people have based upon whatever.
I'm like a person, every time I do business, I make somebody give me a deposit.
Well, that's a smart way to do business.
Even friends.
So this is the other thing that kind of perplexed me, you guys, and that is that they say it's a WordPress site. WordPress is a content management system that provides you the structure. All you do is put content into a WordPress site, right? That's the whole point of it. It's just structure. So why do they need me to finish the structure and then they can populate it? If it's WordPress, why don't they just populate it, right? And so then I'm thinking, oh, well, maybe they don't even know how to do that. So then, if in the end what their need is to populate it themselves, my job is not just to design a website, but there's going to be education involved and training, right? Because if they want to populate it, if it's their need to be able to do it themselves, that's something else I have to build into what I'm doing, right? So I share this with you to show you kind of where you can start to see what the needs of a situation are and where you have to start asking more questions, because with any project, the first stage is information gathering and organizing and making sense of something to see what the scope of this is going to be. I can't give an estimate on this project because I have no idea how much content there is. What I'm going to estimate for a 5-page website is very different than a 50-page website, and I have no context to understand this. And so the way I would respond to this email is, if I was looking for work, I would probably say, like, what my top questions were that I thought that I could get answered here. And then based upon those answers, I would decide, do I want to have a further conversation with this? Because I'm spending time, here's a freelance consideration, I'm spending time doing all this communication back and forth, answering emails, trying to figure out what's going on here. and I haven't been paid, I'm not going to be paid for that. But if I spend an hour trying to like, figure out if this is some project that I want to do and then like come up with an estimate and a proposal, like that's worth it. Like whatever my time is worth, that's how much money I've invested in this project already.
What? I don't understand why he couldn't give you their information to contact them, because now you're playing telephone also.
Well, and that's also, a consideration too, right? So no two projects are going to look the same, but how you approach it should be the same, right? You have certain systems that you work through. There's certain information that you have to know to help you be effective in what it is that you are going to design and produce, right? So there's a certain number of things that I need to know in order to say yes to a project or to believe that I have all the information I need to get started. And that's part of my discovery phase, right? So when we talked about at the beginning of the orientation lecture, I said you guys are going to learn the web development process and the main tasks associated with each. Well, here's your first lesson. These are the 4 phases: discovery, design, development, and deployment, right? The discovery phase is your information gathering. This is when you've first been contacted and you're trying to find out more about the client, more about what their needs are, who their target audience is, what their needs are, developing a proposal, and putting together an estimate of what do you think it's going to take, right? And then your client says, absolutely, Brooke, like you really seem to have a good grasp of what's needed here, what our goals are, who our target audience is. Let's move forward. Of course, I'm going to pay your deposit to get started. Here you go. This is when you start to move into more of a design phase, where you are organizing your content or creating content as needed, doing a mood board perhaps, doing a mock-up perhaps. You're showing your client these things all along to make sure you're on brand and that they are really kind of approving what it is that you've come up with. They say, absolutely, your design is great. Push forward. Once you have like your proof of concept or your mock-up approved and they like the basic look, you go out and you build all 50 of those pages that need to be built one by one, painstakingly off the template or the design that they have already proved, right? Because the worst thing would be like, I'm just going to make all these 50 pages, and then you show it to them and they're like, like not the right look and feel for what we had going on. So there's a sequence that you would want to follow so that you weren't overextending yourself or doing work that you ultimately wouldn't get paid for. Right? So you've had everything approved. You start to develop the full site. You're building out all of those pages, and when it's all ready and it looks right and things have been checked and rechecked and tested, you deploy it, right? That means launch it. That means make it go live. Inevitably, there's going to be things that need to happen. You might have missed something. Maybe there's a spelling issue, or one of your links are broken, something like that. Someone's going to catch that maybe you overlooked. Hopefully not, but it might happen. Even so, every website is a living, breathing thing, and the content's going to constantly need to be refreshed. And so even after you deploy a site, you have your maintenance and your continual content evolution that happens there. And that very closely follows a project management life cycle and the production process, right? So info gathering, creation time, launch it time. All right. We talked about the first 2 weeks of this class are going to be dedicated to the fictitious scenario that you guys are going to be building a website for. All of those assets are available to you in a Google folder, and that folder is listed and linked in your activities for this week. So if you check the orientation folder, activity, you'll see a link in there to a Google folder that talks to you about your specific website building scenario. And so you want to take a look at that, familiarize yourself with it, because as you move forward in the class and it says, okay, now we're going to do a competitor research activity, you are going to base those competitors on that fictitious business that you're going to be working with. So coming up on Tuesday night, you have your Foundations of UX Content Strategy, Linda. It's a great Linda. Pay attention to it. It's just a little bit over an hour, and then answer a few questions about that. Your competitor research, that's your analysis activity that we talked about. You're going to be taking a look at 3 competitors of your fictitious business that you're creating a website for. And then over the weekend, you will be doing a proposal presentation whereby you are putting together your ideas and strategies for how you are going to build a website for this fictitious business. You'll put together a basic sitemap, a basic wireframe, which is just nothing but a grayscale diagram that you can sketch out by hand or use any number of free online programs to do. And then basically you're putting your thoughts together in a slideshow presentation. That is the content of week 1. Do you guys have any questions? LaJoya.
For the fictitious company, are we all doing individual companies or are we all doing the same?
You guys will all be doing the same company.
Okay.
Yep.
Just because I know in Jacob's class we all have different companies.
Yes, in graphic design you guys get to choose different companies, but in this class everybody's going to be working on the same one, which is actually fantastically interesting to see all of the unique approaches to the same scenario. Anything else? All right. So with that, we are going to call it a day in terms of our micro lectures for editing for the web. Let me know if you guys have any questions. These archives are going to be available as soon as I get them processed.